What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again for another daily Manchester City transfer update. Before I do crack on with today's update, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content, then do subscribe to my channel. It is free to subscribe. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day here on YouTube with all the latest Manchester City transfer news. So if you haven't already, do subscribe. It is free. Social media links there in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships or any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's transfer update. We're aiming for 300 likes, smashed it in the last one, so thank you very much for that, guys. And also don't forget as well to get your thoughts in the comments below. So once more, no contract news. It means we're going to dive straight on in with the outs. We've got the very latest on Ederson, who we were speaking about in yesterday's transfer update. And Fabrizio Romano has said that Napoli wanted a new goalkeeper this summer, and last week took a good look at Ederson. They wanted to make a move, but they felt like a move wasn't feasible right now, and Napoli have decided that they're not going to pursue that transfer, and that deal is off. Ederson has had interest in the last 24 hours from Turkey, and I'd be very surprised if there is an interest once more coming in from Saudi Arabia. A lot of clubs in Saudi Arabia were interested in signing Ederson last summer, and if Manchester City were to let it be known that Ederson could leave Manchester City this summer, then I'm sure Saudi Arabian clubs once more will be declaring their interest in Ederson. So I wouldn't rule out Ederson still leaving Manchester City, even though he's come out and said that he wants to stay at the club, as Manchester City do want to try and sort out their goalkeeping situation, where both the first choice keeper Ederson and second choice keeper Ortega Moreno both have their contracts expiring next summer, which does cause some concern, in particular when neither goalkeeper looks set to sign a new contract. Anyway, moving on, we've got the very latest on James McAtee, and the Mail have said that Nottingham Forest plan to make a move for James McAtee this summer, regardless of what happens with Morgan Gibbs-White and him leaving to join Tottenham Hotspur or not. It's a bit of a mess of a transfer, but doesn't really involve City, so I don't need to go into too much detail with regards to that. I'm not expecting City to make a move for Morgan Gibbs-White, but if that does change, of course, I will then keep you guys up to date with what is happening there. So, Nottingham Forest, they don't want to go above their £25 million plus add-ons value of James McAtee. James McAtee, of course, is right now in Germany. He's held talks with Eintracht Frankfurt earlier this week, and he is going to be holding talks later this week with Borussia Dortmund. They're looking like the three teams that are most interested in signing James McAtee. I find it interesting that Nottingham Forest have let their value be known to everybody, so it'll be interesting to see now what both Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund are willing to pay, and I'm sure that James McAtee will go and speak with Nottingham Forest as well before assessing the situation, assessing where he's going to get the most minutes, who's giving him the best financial package, and then Manchester City will ultimately make the decision on where he will end up, as long as one of them three clubs puts in a suitable bid. Manchester City looking for around £40 million, the same value that they got for Cole Palmer, but we didn't include a sell-on fee or a buyback clause when it came to Cole Palmer, so I imagine there is some room for negotiation on that value of £40 million from Manchester City. Now moving on, we've got the latest on Nico O'Reilly. We have an interesting line come out from the Mail on this just yesterday. Now, Manchester City refused to sell to Chelsea back in January. Chelsea were willing to offer Manchester City around £20 to £25 million. Manchester City were insisting on a buyback clause to be included on this. Chelsea weren't interested in that, and they ended their pursuit of Nico O'Reilly. Since then, Manchester City have been working hard to try and get Nico O'Reilly on a new contract. Manchester City have had some discussions with Nico O'Reilly about a new contract, including putting him onto a new long-term contract, a contract that reflects his importance to the first team, and of course a wage increase as well. But what Nico O'Reilly needs to consider here is Manchester City have signed Ryan Nouri in the summer, so it does mean that he's going to be struggling for minutes on that left-hand side. He's going to be struggling with Tajani Ryan, who's coming in for minutes in midfield with Manchester City as well. So he's got to be thinking to himself over the next 12 months just how much first-team football is he going to get at Manchester City. It's a bit more complicated than the James McAtee situation, because McAtee's only got 11 months left on his contract, whereas Nico O'Reilly still has 3 years left on his Manchester City contract. So it's very much a case where City don't need to put Nico O'Reilly onto a new contract. They want to put Nico O'Reilly onto a new contract in the hope that it's going to fend off interest, and he's going to obviously commit long term to Manchester City, which I think may just be the angle here. It may just be Nico O'Reilly's camp wanting to force these talks through to get him to sign a new contract. contract, because I'd be surprised if Nico O'Reilly does leave Manchester City this summer. But there is lots of interest coming in from Premier League teams and Bundesliga teams as well, but no teams have been named as of yet. Now, it is very frustrating that we potentially see Manchester City maybe losing another top academy player. We're seeing the likes, of course, of Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer already leaving and prospering elsewhere, and it leaves a very bitter taste in the mouth. And what we want here is our high-quality young players staying, committing their future to Manchester City and getting the minutes that they're looking for, and it's just not happening. And what we're seeing more and more of is these high-quality young players thinking that they're going to get more of an opportunity elsewhere, and they decide to take the plunge and leave Manchester City and go elsewhere. And ultimately, you know, if you're good enough to be in and around the City academy and City are thinking about you around the first team squad, then you're more than good enough for a lot of teams out there. And that's been the situation with Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, Romeo Lavia, James Trafford as well. These are just a few of the names that are springing to mind, and there's more as well. And it is frustrating from the City point of view that, you know, we're seeing some of the players who are reaching the end of their career getting all of the minutes, whilst we're seeing these high quality young players maybe not being given as much of an opportunity as what they should be. And I thought Nico O'Reilly was a bit of a revelation in that second half of the season for Manchester City. So I would like City to find a way to make Nico O'Reilly work and really find a way for him to be getting the promise of minutes at Manchester City rather than just being an afterthought, which is what maybe some of the other young players do feel like. And yeah, and this also creates a bit of a registration problem for City, because we've talked about the non-homegrown problem that City have had with having too many non-homegrown players, and we face the possibility here of having some homegrown problems as well. So what's going to happen is McAtee will leave Manchester City, and if Nico O'Reilly leaves this summer as well, that's going to leave 3 homegrown players by Manchester City left in their squad. It means when it comes, this is a problem for the Champions League registrations, by the way, not the Premier League registrations, but it means that Manchester City would have to promote an academy player who has been raised through the City academy. A player like James Simpson-Pusey, for example, who's been at Manchester City since he was 8 years old. He's classed as not only homegrown, but a homegrown player by Manchester City. So if Nico O'Reilly leaves, then we can promote James Simpson-Pusey to be around the Man City first team squad for both the Premier League and Champions League, and he obviously takes Nico O'Reilly's spot. Yeah, they don't play the same position, but we're talking here strictly about players who are homegrown to Manchester City when it comes to their Champions League registrations, because we're allowed a squad of 25, and what would happen in this instance would be that if Manchester City can't fill out their homegrown quota in the Champions League squad, then we would simply just not register another player, so we end up having a smaller squad. So let's say we go with our 3 homegrown players to the club rather than meeting the criteria of at least 4 players, then we have to knock off a spot on our registrations when it comes to the Champions League squad, which means potentially another non-homegrown player could end up missing out here for Manchester City, and it all gets a little bit complicated. And I've said before that selling James McAtee is fine, it doesn't really have any effect on City's registrations, but selling 2 homegrown players to Manchester City will seriously affect the City squad unless we're willing to promote a player, and the only player really that's jumping out to me is a player that's already spent some time around the City first team squad, is James Simpson-Pusey. So that's again just something to think about, and we've got to think about the monetary value about these complications amongst our squad, because for me Nico O'Reilly is more developed than James Simpson-Pusey. Simpson-Pusey is younger than Nico O'Reilly, so he's not as developed as of right now. So it's all can get very ugly and very complicated very quickly, and my ideal solution here is don't sell your homegrown players. That's how this works. Don't sell Nico O'Reilly to anybody. And I'm pleased to say that Paul Hirst has put some clarity on this. Reliable with his City information has said that City's stance here, they don't plan to sell him this summer. They see him as an important member of the first team squad. City want to keep Nico O'Reilly at the club, and Manchester City will be working to try and get him onto a new contract. And I think it's important now that City sit down with Nico O'Reilly and discuss what he wants to do. If Nico O'Reilly is concerned about playing regularly for City, he needs to tell City that, and if he wants to leave City, again, he needs to communicate that to the club so we can start sorting things out and putting things in the pipeline, because at the moment City hold him as a valuable, important first team player. They want to keep him, so if Nico O'Reilly wants to stay as well, then sign a new contract. If not, then we can explore him potentially leaving. 3 years left on his contract, we can get a good amount for him, and we can promote from within to replace that homegrown problem that City could face. So that's where I stand on this one. Be interesting to see what does happen. Anyway, moving on, we've got the latest on Ilkay Gundogan, and despite some reports coming in from Turkey, Ilkay Gundogan's agent and uncle has come out and spoke to Sports Witness and said he's frustrated about this talk of Ilkay Gundogan leaving City this summer to go to Turkey. He said that he's not spoken to any clubs in Turkey. He doesn't know where the rumours are coming from, despite Ilkay Gundogan being heavily linked with a move to Galatasaray, with Manchester City apparently happy for Gundogan to leave if he so wishes this summer, and Gundogan's contract up next summer. So again, City need to start selling some non-homegrown players, so we need to sort out the future. If Ilkay Gundogan wants to leave, then we need to sort that out. Obviously, we need some clarity about what's happening with the goalkeeper situation, Ortega Moreno and Ederson. We need some clarity about the young players in the squad, including Claudio Echeverri and also Vita Hayes as well, the non-homegrown players. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on, we've got the very latest on Jack Grealish as well, and Flashscore have been reporting today that Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham United and Everton all want Jack Grealish on loan from Manchester City. West Ham are seriously considering Jack Grealish to replace Mohamed Kudus, who's left them. Spurs are wanting more depth to try and compete domestically and in the Champions League as well, so they're interested in loaning Jack Grealish, and Everton also interested and would like a big name to be brought in. None of these are looking at permanent moves. They don't want to pay a transfer fee to Manchester City. None of these clubs are also interested in paying a lot of Jack Grealish's wage either. They want City to subsidise that, which means City would continue paying Jack Grealish's wage whilst he plays for another club. But if he does go on loan for the upcoming season, then he wouldn't be eligible in the Premier League to play against Manchester City. Is the only bonus that really you have on a loan transfer. I don't have too much of a problem with a loan as long as there's some good loan fees included. The clubs are willing to spend a lot of money on Jack Grealish's wage that City don't have to subsidise as much, and also some kind of purchase option included. Obligation to buy would be fantastic, but option to buy also perfectly fine, because Jack Grealish has got 2 years left on his City contract. When we get to next summer, Jack Grealish has just 1 year left on his contract, so it's not something we have to think about too much. But I have also spoken about the possibility that, you know, we're going to be paying loads of Jack Grealish's wage. You know, Tottenham want to compete domestically and have a bigger squad to compete in the Champions League. So do Manchester City. So why should we be paying loads of his wage for him to play for Tottenham Hotspur to aid them when we could just keep Jack Grealish here? So all depends on what Jack Grealish wants and what Manchester City are looking for. The fact that Grealish never went to the Club World Cup tells me everything I need to know, that despite Jack Grealish loving Manchester City and the fans, I do think his time is up and I do think he'll be leaving. If we could get a permanent transfer, then great. If not, then we've got to make sure the loan transfer works and Manchester City are getting a good bit of business. And as I've said throughout this summer transfer window, I'm not only going to be judging Hugo Viana on his ability to bring players into the club. He can do that very quickly. He's proven that in the January transfer window and at the start of the summer transfer window. How good is he at getting players to leave and getting a good price and getting a good deal for Manchester City? That's where we're at a tipping point now when it comes to transfers with Manchester City over the next couple of weeks. We seriously need to be thinking about the outs and sorting out our squad so we know what our squad's going to look like heading into the new season, because at the moment it's a little uncertain, and I know a few of you guys are getting very concerned about some fantastic bits of business being done by some of our rivals. I think Spurs have done some fantastic bits of business. There's talk of Newcastle doing some really good bits of business. Chelsea have done some good bits of business. Liverpool have had a brilliant window. So Manchester City have got off to a really good start, need to ensure that they're continuing to keep up with that good start and maintaining their squad and deciding who's going to be here, who's not, and what does this window look like for the remainder of July and August and into September 1st and transfer deadline day. And remember guys, I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day with all the latest City transfer news here on YouTube. So if you haven't already, do subscribe. It is free to subscribe. Social media links there in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's transfer update. We're aiming for 300 likes, and do get your thoughts as well in the comments below, and I'll see you all again religiously tomorrow for the next daily Manchester City transfer update. I have also done my episode of the transfer show earlier today if you want to go and check that out as well. That's live on my channel. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for the next daily Manchester City transfer update religiously. So I've been JSGC. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.